it's Lisa here. I hope you're all well. I thought I would come on and do kind of a video relating to a question that I'm asked a lot is, can you show us how you bead on cross stitch? So I thought absolutely I can, and as you know I'm working on my lovely Chatelaine, which is the Royal Tudor Garden mandala. So I thought, right, I'm going to do some beading on that today and I'll show you, but I also wanted to show you some of the other types of beading that I do. So obviously I do jewellery making, and I keep saying this and I haven't quite got round to doing a lot of it. I've done some Kumihimo uploads, but I am intending to show you how I do some beading, some proper beading. This is a spiral peyote stitch that I've done. This is a pretty design as well. I do like this one. I think the colours in that are really, really nice. And another one is a design that I actually created myself out of pip beads. I have a necklace to match this as well, but you can see underneath the structure in terms of how to mount them and then connect as well with just a little stone in there. So I just wanted to show you how, you know, what else I do in relation to beading as well before we get into the cross stitch. I'll just show you some of the tools that I typically use to create designs such as this. So on here I've got a bead on it board, which up until really recently is what I would place my beads on for when I was doing my cross stitch designs. But obviously they do roll around. It's not that easy. I have Daisy, and obviously if she tries to jump up at me, the beads tend to go flying. And normally I use sort of the fire line thread. This is just the smoke example for when you're working in darker colourways. The KO kind of nylon for beading as well, and also these long beading needles. These are 12s. I tend to use 10s, 12s, sometimes 13s if I'm working with the really, really tiny 15-0 seed beads, but they tend to be the products that I would use to create the jewellery and also to do the beading work. So obviously you do want to use a beading needle when you are beading. They're obviously a lot finer, and yeah, your beads would tend to probably get stuck if you're working with the smaller beads on a traditional tapestry needle anyway, so that tends to be what I do. And then from a cross stitch perspective, Lilly was the last piece that I've actually beaded. Let me see if I can zoom you in a little bit further on her. Yeah, so there you go. Now when I beaded Lilly, I did use my bead on it board, and because there's not an awful lot of beads in her, to be fair. This is where the bulk of them lie. But to stitch them on, I just used the DMC threads, which is what I've tended to do in my Mirabilia Nora Corbett type designs. So then you get a decent colour match in terms of thread to the types of beads or the colour of the beads that you're working on. But yeah, I mean, I don't consider myself a master beader by any stretch of the imagination. I have been beading for 20 plus years on cross stitch, and what I can say is that none of them have fallen off yet, so I'm clearly doing something right and they're staying put. So yeah, I'm just going to show you some of the tools that I'm going to be using on my Chatelaine, and then we'll get started. So I got a decent beading needle that came attached to this ribbon when I got my Chatelaine delivery. There's also a tapestry needle on there as well, but obviously I've got my own. I'm using petites on this one. And then yeah, I picked up a tacky bob. So I'll just show you exactly what this is. It's like a CD case, and when you open it up, it looks something like this. Both of these sides, you can hear it, it's sticky. So what that means is you can pour your beads on and they're going to actually stick to the surface, and then you're just going to be able to pick them up. So obviously I'm going to be working on my needle needs frame, and also be using the quantum frame for my design. So I'll just be able to put the beads onto this, and then when I'm done, and if I don't use all the beads, I can just close it up, and then they're all nice and safe and secure for the next time that I actually go in and want to start the beading. It's just a case of opening it up and your beads will be ready to go. So I thought I would give one of these a go for the first time and just see how that works. So yeah, I'm going to get my frame set up and I'll see you in a little while. Hello, so I'm all set up now. I've got my lovely Chatelaine here on my Omanique stretcher bars, so yeah, we're all ready to go. So I'm going to be using the Nymo thread that came with the Chatelaine kit. I've not ever beaded with Nymo before, so I'm not sure what this is going to be like. I can't imagine it's any different to anything else I've beaded before. I've obviously beaded in a large range of different things. I think it's probably a bit like the KO nylon beading thread, so I'm assuming this is going to be the same. It's just like a really nice shiny, slick nylon thread really. So I'm going to be using that on my beads, and I'm going to be working in two different colours of Delica beads. Obviously I'm working in the pond areas around here, so we've got a 76 and also I think it's a 165 Delica bead here in these lovely shades of blue. So I've gone ahead and put some of these already onto my tacky bob there, so they're all safe, nothing's going to come off. I've sort of touched them, squished them on, so I've poured and then sort of tapped them on, so I can just rest this anywhere on my frame. So I'll just obviously plop it there, and I'll just be able to pick up the beads as I go. So that makes it really, really simple. Nothing's going to roll around or get lost, which is really, really great. So just to give you an idea of exactly what I'm going to be doing, I'm just going to show you a really small section of the pattern that's zoomed in. So through showing you this, it shouldn't give too much away. But basically all I'm going to be doing is just alternating the Delica beads. So 8, 9, 8, 9, 9, 8, 9, 8, just to create a bit of a block effect really. So this is what I'm going to be doing. Nothing overly complicated, but I'm just going to show you the principles of how I get started and how it works. So I'll be back in a moment. So the needle's threaded. This Nymo feels lovely actually. It's really, really slippy. It's ever so nice. So I'm going to show you how I attach the thread at the back. It's nothing fancy. You could probably start this with a pin stitch or something along the lines of that. I don't. I tend to just thread the needle underneath a couple of threads. Let me just zoom that in a little bit so you can see hopefully what I'm doing. I just tend to just do this, stitch it in a couple of times, just so it sort of snags, which it has done there, and then put the needle in, and then I'm just going to flip the frame back over. Okay, so there's a couple of different ways you can attach beads, and that comes down to your own personal preference. I tend to put mine on the diagonal, so what I'll do is I'll come up in the bottom left hand corner. I'm going to pick up a bead if I can. It's on the end of my beaded needle, and then I then go down in the top right corner, so it will sit something like that. I tend to do them on a diagonal more out of habit than anything else, so you can see how that's sitting. I'm going to put the next colour on for you, so it's just a case of in that bottom left hand corner. Obviously I'm stitching over 2 threads on this, so you just need to bear that in mind, that you don't sort of come up in this middle hole here. I'm going to take the darker shade now, so the 9. Just lift that off the tacky bob. There we go. Push that onto the needle. It's not a fast process beading. You know, I don't really mind that. I like the process of beading, and then just sort of pull that alongside it. And I'm going to take my next one, which is a smaller, the lighter shade. I've not beaded with Delica on cross stitch before. Obviously I've used Delica beads in jewellery making, but never on cross stitch. It's like usually the Mill Hill beads that I tend to use. So just picking off Daisy's dog hair as I go. Never ideal. I think there's more of her DNA in these cross stitch patterns and stitchings than there is mine. But there we go. So that's the kind of look that it gives you on the horizontal. Now I'm just going to go and show you another way of doing this as well. So I'm just going to jump doesn't really matter how I do this, but you can also put them on a different angle as well. So I'm just going to go beneath it. Now, rather than start in this bottom corner here, you could actually come up in the middle and pick up. I'll do a darker, so I'll just follow the pattern as if I'm actually doing it, just to give you a bit of an idea of the difference. And then you're just going to go straight up that middle hole, and then your bead will sit perpendicular. You see, it depends what aesthetic you prefer, really. There's no right or wrong way with this. It really doesn't matter. It's just what you think looks nicer. I tend to always go on the diagonal because it's just usually because that's how my bottom leg of my stitch would naturally lay anyway. But it doesn't really matter, and this looks equally as nice. Just depends on what you're looking for. Obviously some of the beads are going to be a little bit different because they're just going to follow lines anyway. I've got some bugle beads to go on which are just in straight lines, which is how I'll lay them. So I'll be laying them on the horizontal or perpendicular anyway, so that doesn't really matter, but this just gives you a bit of a flavour of a different way of doing it. And again, you could choose what you like the look of best, really. But there's just a couple of ways of beading. It's not rocket science, is it? It's not really that difficult. But there you go, that just gives you a bit of a flavour of a different angulation that you can put them on. I mean, I'm going to be doing the kind of the diagonal look anyway, because it's just the way I've always done it. But I have to say, I do like the look of them laying horizontal actually, as well. I don't know which way I'm going to do this, you know. I like that way too. Interesting, eh? But anyway, that is how I bead. And then at the end, all I do, let me just scroll this out for you, is just tie it off as you would a normal thread. So just rotate the frame, back it up a little bit more so you can see, and then all I would do is just catch this thread under a few of the strands and then just do that a couple of times to tie it off. Obviously I'm not going to do that because I'm working on the thread. Hey, I just did a little bit, tiny bit more, so I just thought I'd pop back on and show you how it's laying. So obviously I've gone with the diagonal look, which I think looks really nice. It looks like little pearls in the water. It's lovely. And yeah, I'm just going to continue maybe a little bit longer on this. I will do a bead with me video next weekend, I think. So we'll get some of this more bling-tastic stuff on. There's some big jewels to go in around, and obviously there's a big centre bead. So I thought, well, I kind of have to share that with you in a way, do you know what I mean? It's like we've been on this journey together. Sorry, I keep headbutting the camera. We've been on this journey together. So it'll be good to do some of the really nice blingy beads with you. So I'm going to do that next weekend. So hopefully I'll get that filmed on Saturday morning and then get it uploaded for the weekend for you. So I hope you found this helpful anyway in terms of the beading process and different ways you could attach them and directions depending on your personal taste. So as I said earlier, I will catch you later. Take care. Bye.